Alright, everybody. Let's do this. Final catch up of 2019. Jesus Christ. I like to give myself one extra month before I make that best of the year list, as always. So, this is the final one. I'm not catching anything new. Hopefully, if I do, I will mention it in the best of the year list. But this is the last catch up for 2019. But before we start the list, I want to mention everything that I rewatched in this month. Starting with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I watched it the second time. I liked it a lot better, like a lot better. I watched Knives Out the second time. I started to notice some, the baseball traces and everything, some little Easter eggs here and there. And I watched The Lighthouse the second time, which I love it a lot more now because I feel like I gained a new understanding for the film and I have my own theory of what is going on. People have a lot of theories out there, so I think I liked it a lot more. I also watched Marriage Story, the second one, just to make sure how much I like this movie. Before I make the best of the year list, I just want to make sure it's placed. I watched LUCE the second time for the same reason. I feel like there are some stuff that I missed during the first watch, but the second time I will try to catch everything. Dragged Across Concrete, I watched it the second time just to make sure that I'm not forgetting about this movie and it still holds a place in my heart. The quality drags a little bit for me the second time, knowing what's to come and how they dragged out the sequences. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. It's still a pretty damn good movie. I watched Glass the second time, which I love it way more than the first time I watched it, which was when it came out. So it was January, so a year ago. I liked it a lot more. It just, some of the things that happen at the end is really disappointing, but everything leading up to that and how the film was put together, I really respect this filmmaking and I can't wait for Shyamalan to do more. I watched Jojo Rabbit the second time just to make sure it's placed. I liked it. Probably the same feeling. I watched Ad Astra the third time. Each time I watch this movie, I feel like I like it a little bit more. And finally, I also watched Doctor Sleep again for the second time. And yeah, the problem I have when I first watched this movie still exists. The setup being too discombobulated, it's all over the place. But everything else is pretty damn good. Alright, let's move on to the list. The first one on the stalker list, we have Wrinkles the Clown, a documentary that's supposed to tell a story about the clown outbreaks happened a few years ago. What started it, who started it, what contributed to the trend, but as you watch this thing, there's really no story here. It's like a very well produced Shane Dawson type video, but you just watch a whole bunch of kids and idiots talking about clowns and there's really no story here. I would say just skip this one. This is weird. We follow a bartender who's just chilling, played by Armie Hammer, and one night a fight breaks out in his bar and someone left their phone and he takes it home and some weird shit is on the phone and a lot of cockroaches and a lot of blood and a lot of flies and a lot of them. I really like the stuffing, but I hate the packaging.
I am Don Quixote.
The Man Who Killed Don Quixote is the film that has been on my watch list ever since it came out in April, but I never watched it, but I just didn't want to touch it for some reason. And just when I thought I probably would never watch it, Marriage Story came out, and looking at Adam Driver, I guess I just watched all of his film from 2019. This is one of the messiest movies of the year. Not saying it's one of the worst of the year or anything. It's just very, very messy. From the material, it has so much potential. A filmmaker getting stuck in his own film, like, fuck, I'm sold already. But everything from the editing, how it was shot, and how it was written to the plotting, this is one of the messiest movie of the year.
Warden.
Clemency is probably the movie that I like the least that has a good review on Rotten Tomatoes. I really didn't like this movie. It felt like I just want them to give me story, give me plot, but just don't give me people chit-chatting about shit I already know for 20 minutes and 60 minutes ago. They're just talking and talking for the same thing over and over again. It feels like we're at the same spot out after an hour and 40 minutes. The main character had the most screen time, but yet I felt she has the least for some reason, and her presence from the story is just so thin. and flat. It's almost like she doesn't belong in the movie. It has a really cool opening, and I feel like that's it. The prologue really did it for me. It gripped me, and the rest of the film just kind of went downhill. The character going on death row doesn't have any development. In fact, he's barely in the movie, and his lawyer either. The performances are all great. It just feel like such a disservice to all these actors giving out good performances. And this is that type of movie where just the radio tells us everything you need to know in 30 seconds. So that is that type of movie. I really didn't like it, but I feel like most people watched it, liked it. So I feel like, don't take my word for it. I just didn't like it.
Tell me the truth.
And my secret loves no secret.
Holy shit, they stretched the death of Dick Long as Dick Long's long dick. It's a very simple premise, but they stretched this motherfucker out to 100 minutes. Really seems like they have no idea what to do with it. There's a good movie somewhere in there, I believe so. And when you figure out what actually killed Dick Long, a long... Paradise Hills is about a woman who gets sent to an island where a facility can turn them into the perfect beings before sending them back to the world. I like the colors, I like the cast, and when you discover what's really going on after a revelation, I like the idea, but the execution isn't quite right for me. Paradise Hills decided to show us 2 instead of 1 + 1. There are a lot of explaining to do, and it really bogged down the theme. The second half was way more exciting than the first. The message is a lot more impactful than the execution, but that ending is actually quite good. This one also reminded me of another film, which I will talk about it later in the video, but we'll talk about that later.
My brother's birthday to be perfect.
The Banana Splits movie, I was kind of interested to see this one. But the movie sucked. Like, I'm not here to complain about anything. I have fun watching this one. Probably not the way the filmmakers intended me to, but still, pretty much is the Five Nights at Freddy movie before the Five Nights at Freddy actually comes out, even though they've been developing a Five Nights at Freddy movie since like 5 years ago. The movie's boring. The kills are boring. The characters are boring. The only reason why it's on the streaming list is because of the material. I like the fact that these things start killing people, and also it's actually a pretty good guilty pleasure in that sense. It's no way a good movie technically, but it's like I can have fun when I'm at it, you know, so I guess it's okay. I wasn't planning on watching this one until it got nominated at the Golden Globe. I'm gonna be honest, I'm probably too young and too stupid for this movie. The cinematography is pretty trash for my personal taste. I hate how the thing is shot and put together. With that being said, I thought it was I thought it was so boring. Again, I'm probably just too stupid and not mature enough.
We all need mercy.
Just Mercy covers the true story of a wrongly convicted man, Walter McMillan, and a lawyer played by Michael B. Jordan tries to prove his innocence. A lot of people like this movie, and I'm not saying this one's bad or anything. I just don't think it's for me. I feel like I'm saying that a lot. I think it's an incredible story with an incredible cast, but it's just the wrong movie at the wrong time for me. Every scene or plot points in this movie I've seen it miles away. Now, with the climate the world is going right now politically, we're gonna have a lot of these movies that deal with racial discrimination and social injustice. It's its own genre by this point, and a lot of it share the same tropes, iconographies, and conventions. And in this, it feels like I'm watching any other movies that deal with similar themes. There's really nothing that stood out to me. I'm not gonna specifically pinpoint the flaws I have with this one. I'm just saying it's not for me, but it's not a bad movie for sure. Good concept, but not so well executed. It's about if you get snapped with this camera, you'll be killed by this entity, and the only way to buy some time for yourself is to take pictures of others, and the entity will go down the line, kind of like It Follows. And this movie is slow and very dark. It pretty much contains everything you expect from a horror film that you've never heard of by the end of the year, but it sounds like it has a good concept. The research scene, the authorities don't believe in the teenagers, the unrelated prologue that contains a kill, 30-year-olds playing high schoolers. Every time we get movies with teenagers as the main characters, I always wonder where the fuck their parents are, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, I think this would be a lot better if it was a short rather than a feature. There's a romantic subplot that was set up but never followed suit. But I also liked how high school romance didn't tore down the movie on the other hand. So there are some good ideas in there though, like how the characters try to stop this entity, and there are actually some cool explanation and visual set pieces in this that tell the audience why it isn't that simple. So I would say go check it out. It doesn't really bother me that much, so I feel like it's a good stream it. In Fabric is about a dress that kill people, and they did it with the most artistic way possible. Some may say pretentious, to which I say,
You're goddamn right.
it strangely talks about consumerism and women's expectations. I checked out about halfway through. With this particular execution, I can see people really into it, but it just ain't for me. This one's I was definitely overhyped towards the end of the year. I saw a lot of people talking about this movie being that horror film you missed. Every year there's a couple, but a lot of people saying this is legit really good. I thought it was It's just more care and shit is given to it. It's about a group of college students go to a haunted house, and quickly they realize it's a lot more than that as they're trapped in there. I really like the makeup. The cinematography also isn't bad for a low budget horror film. It's just everything you expect from a low budget horror film that's been coming out, but actually with an attempt at characterization, especially the lead. The acting also was pretty good. Go see it. It's on one level higher than the generic low budget horrors out there. I would say that. Adopt a Highway is about Ethan Hawke, who just got out of prison after 20 years, and he has to regain his footing by learning how the new world works with, the internet and everything, until one day he finds an abandoned baby in a dumpster and realizes there's a chance for redemption. It is very well shot. The film looks pretty good. I just think the script can be a lot more fatter and dense, especially emotionally, when we're looking at such a compelling character. It's made by Tom Hardy 2.0, so go check it out. It's not that bad.
Everything I do is to protect you.
For the longest time, I thought there was a series on Netflix. I had it on my list almost as soon as it was released, thinking it was a show I would catch in the future. Never touched it until I watched some YouTube videos saying that this is actually a movie all along. I was like, bruh, we followed the character Daughter, who was born and raised in this bunker by Mother, an AI bot. I like the costume and how it blends with CGI. It looks very real. Take a while for the story to take off, but once it does, I think it's not bad. The Good Liar is one of those films you feel like you've seen 100 times because it all followed the same formula and beats. It was based on a novel of the same name where a con artist goes on a date with a widow. This one, it's not a bad script. I feel like it's just a bad story. It's not very good at hiding the mystery, and the relationship side of things feels so not deserved and not earned. Everything felt artificial after all, but overall, I don't think it's terrible. It's watchable, and there's really no specific flaw that popped out that ruined the movie either. But the thing is, you see the ending literally from the opening shot.
We do.
We both gonna kill each other.
This one was originally titled The Untitled Amazing Jonathan Documentary, which in my opinion is a way better title than this one, considering what the documentary is actually about. It is a documentary about a documentary about a documentary about a documentary. There's a point where the director starts pointing the camera at himself. I was like, alright, this is fresh, this is a bit different, and I think it's worth a watch. The Man Without Gravity is one of those hidden movies on Netflix I just stumbled across. I thought it was a bit disappointing, to be honest, and it's going to get remade some point in time in the future too. It tells a story about a baby who was born like Pennywise's balloon. He floats everywhere, and the way to keep him on the ground is by weights, and in this case a backpack. I was a little disappointed because it is a very basic look at a very intriguing situation that can potentially have a very emotionally satisfying journey, but it spent the first almost 70 minutes setting up a movie that doesn't really happen, and the last 20 minutes is what I wanted for the entire film. It's a lot more grounded, no pun intended, and thought-provoking at times. Overall, it just felt flat. Check it out for the concept though. It's on Netflix, so yeah.
No.
I mean, not in those words, but you...
No, I didn't say it in any of those words.
It's about a late night talk show host who is falling off, and when she hires her only female staff, together they try to bring the show back from its inevitable cancellation. I finally caught this one. I thought it was a true story, but it wasn't. I like the movie overall, even though a lot of emotional beats in the scenes are mumbled through like they're catching a train and running out of time for some reason, but there are subtle nuances they put into the film that made it alive and fun. Good characters, good arcs. It's one of those feel-good movies of the year.
Hello, little ghost lady. No. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were dead. Oh, my goodness.
Extraordinary is about a gifted driving instructor teaming up with a dad to perform an exorcism on his daughter, and it is the goofiest movie of the year. Like, the jokes are very offbeat, sometimes stale as hell, but I love it. If you look at this movie from a writer's standpoint, not a lot of things make sense. You'll be questioning your sanity throughout, but don't watch it like that. The best way to watch this one is to not give too much thought and let the movie takes you to wherever it leads. It's not taking itself seriously, so I don't think you should either.
Level 16 is not like the other levels.
This is gonna get a remake. Level 16 is about a bunch of girls who are basically being Truman, where they live their whole lives in a prison-like school, and as they age and obtain new achievements, they get to go from level to level. There are points in there where the writing can be polished a lot, but there are also a lot of moments I really like too. It's kind of cool to see the same filmmaker made this and the Banana Splits movie in the same year, but so wildly different. The acting are all pretty good. If this went to the theater, this is actually worth the ticket price.
Los tigres no tienen miedo.
This is a Spanish film that follows a group of kids in a dystopian world. Their parents are either killed or taken, and they're just trying to go by. It is a coming-of-age story told in a fantasy of our main character. So you see graffiti and dolls coming to life and interact with people. It's also a horror film at the same time, so it's quite fun in that way. I recommend going in blind because this shit is crazy. Just know that there's some alien shit going on. There's everything you need from a Nick Cage movie. The freakouts, the quotes, the quotable quotes, and deliveries you love dearly. I mean, go watch it. Preferably in theater because the colors are just beautiful. I cannot wait people start quoting Nick Cage from this movie.
How do you plead?
Alright, the first must-watch movie is Official Secrets. This is a very good movie. It's a true story about Catherine Gunn, who risked everything to expose the corruption of the government, and it was directed like a horror film. I was sitting there being scared more than most horror films out there scares me, and I feel like it says a lot to me. This is probably the best I've seen Keira Knightley, and just when you realize how much she put on the line for this higher cost, she's a goddamn hero. In case you're wondering, I love this movie so much. The person who co-wrote Amelie also has a writing credit for this one. It's about a disembodied hand while walking around the city trying to find its owner. The animation looks stunning, looks beautiful. Cannot wait to dig into and hopefully make a video about it. It's on Netflix. Please see it. One of my favorites of the year. I'm just glad it got nominated at the Academy Awards, so definitely go check it out. I started to feel like I have a thing for French films.
Eat our snow, you... They're not attached. Why aren't they attached? I thought they were attached. I would never, in a million years, have done what I just did if I didn't think these were attached.
KLAUS is one of the feel-good movies of the year as well. It talks about the origin of Santa Claus in a very funny and interesting way. I definitely recommend checking this one out. The animation looks great, and I definitely see this being an annual tradition for a lot of people where they sit and watch this one every Christmas. It's on Netflix. Go check it out. Atlantics is a romantic story with a little twist. I don't know if the trailer spoils it. Avoid it if it does because I knew nothing about the film, and at first I was like, okay, he wants this and she wants that. We have a movie here, yada yada yada, and then that ending hits. This movie just became 100% more interesting. Everything leading up to that point though is already pretty intriguing from a filmmaking standpoint. The editing and how it was put together feel like somehow it wasn't cut, and it's one of those films where the director likes to linger her shots a little bit, but everything flows very well. I think it's gonna get a remake eventually. It's on Netflix. Go check it out. This is one of those where few people have been talking about it ever since it came out, and I finally caught it on Netflix. But holy shit, does this movie looks awesome. This is definitely one of the best looking films of 2019 for me. I thought Monos will take the best looking film of the year, but man, does Shadow came out of nowhere. Its lack of colors made each frame of the film looks like a Chinese painting. I would even go further. This is probably one of the best looking films I've ever seen. One of the most unique one for sure. Also the costume design. Woo. Other than how the film looks, the action, the sound design, and how they incorporated the music feels so seamless. The only thing I have to say about it is that it started off a little bit slow. There are a lot of explaining and setting up to do. It begins with a block of text explaining the world. There are characters that just sit down and start spitting backstories and exposition, and for a good chunk the audience are left having no idea what the conflict is, where the story is going. Besides, I think the script can have an even bigger emotional punch at the end, but other than that, this is a joy to watch visually regardless. It's on Netflix. Definitely go catch this one. This is Hollywood at its finest. This is Hollywood at its peak. This is what Hollywood is all about. Breaking new ground. Shooting a movie in an IMAX for the entirety. And now we have a war film that was shot in 2 long takes. They do not get any better than this. I finally get to see this in IMAX, which is how you should see it. 2 soldiers on a mission to deliver a message. That's it. I probably don't have any specific flaw I can pinpoint about this one. The first viewing, there are something, I would say the pacing is a little bit off, but on the second viewing is actually better than the first, and a lot of problems I had just kind of disappear and flow into the background. Other than that, wow, what a picture. Alright, thank you so much for watching this video. I will come back with the best of the year list. I still haven't figured out my list yet. I'm obsessed with lists every year. I don't know how to work out the list because do I put this film on top or this film on top? I like them both equally, but blah 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 blah. So that video is coming out, and I'll see you then. Bye.